welcome back to Mind Body Relationship. And joining me today is Dr. Laurie Ponsford-Hill, the clinical director of the Counselling House, and my name is Emerald Hill, the executive director of the Portside ART Relational Therapy Institute.
Yes. And in Mind Body Relationship, we discuss the mind, the body, and the relationship. So welcome, Emerald. Today is actually really part 2 of part 1, where we were talking with Kate about her experiences in regards to eating disorder. Mm-hmm. And today we're going to be talking actually to you and your experience in regards to eating disorder as well.
Ooh, scary.
Very scary and quite opposite in regards to the end of the spectrum, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Kate struggled with undereating and I struggled with overeating.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And there was very similar experiences, yet very opposite experiences all at the same time.
Yeah.
So
how would you like me to start this?
Well, how about if you just take us through when it was that you, reflecting back, realized, hey, there were difficulties setting in right from, what would you say, what would the first age be?
Okay, well, I would say I was a pretty healthy kid up until I was 5 or 6 when I started to kind of pack on the pounds. I was always a super hungry kid. So, from the day I was born, I had the chubby cheeks, the chubby everything, really. And I kind of started to notice it when I went to school. And, my peers would start to pick on me. Or, my grandfather would come over and he would comment on how heavy I was getting and things like that. So it kind of, started from a pretty young age that my weight was becoming an issue. I don't think, however, until I was maybe 8 or 10 that I would actually be considered, an overweight kid. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it was at that point that things started to get very difficult. And I think it was at that point that it was really just me enjoying eating. I enjoyed eating with my family. I enjoyed the meals that my dad would cook. I enjoyed going out to restaurants. But it was really at that point when the bullying really started, and not even just from other kids but from adults and my family members, that really I started using food as a coping skill to help me feel better when those things would occur. And that's when I probably started going into the obese range. And I think it was probably in grade 7, 8, and probably my first year of high school that I was morbidly obese.
Yeah.
So it basically goes, healthy range, and then overweight, and then obese, and then morbidly obese, and then super morbidly obese. Super morbidly obese is more like my 600-pound life, and I'm happy to say I did not get there.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah. What stopped you from getting there, by the way?
Well, I was incredibly thankful because if I didn't have my family, I think I would have gotten there. I think that if we didn't do something together, by the time I got to college, I would have just eaten myself into oblivion. Probably. What happened was my aunt had always struggled with her weight, and she finally started the Atkins diet. And so she lost, I'm going to say 150 pounds on this Atkins diet. And my mom, who was also at that point struggling with her weight as well, basically my whole family minus my brother was struggling with their weight. And she was like, we're doing this diet. I'm sick of this. I'm not doing it anymore. Throw out the bread. So, even though, and the interesting thing is, even though I wanted to lose weight, basically my whole life, I was so against it almost. I struggled with it to really get into it. But over the summer that we were doing it, I lost 60 pounds.
Wow.
And that was amazing. My mom was at a healthy weight. My dad was at a healthy weight. My brother was always at a healthy weight. But I was finally getting there. I probably would consider myself on the lower end of morbidly obese and more just obese at that point.
Oh, okay.
And then what happened was I went to college and I basically like took everything I learned and went like, boom. I was like, screw it. I'm in college. Everything's fun. And I probably gained like 30 pounds. And I felt kind of embarrassed by it because I got there and I was like, this is my chance to be on my own. This is my chance to take everything that I've learned and apply it to my life, and I'm going to go gangbusters. Like, no more am I pressured to eat with my family. I can just like eat a hard-boiled egg for supper and that'll be it. But then I submitted to the pressure of my peers, and I regret doing that, but that's what happened. And when I got home, my family was like, what are you eating? Because I had quite obviously packed on the pounds. And college wasn't simple. Like, it wasn't easy. Even though people grow up and, you know, are more respectful and know when to comment and when to not comment. Unfortunately, I went into the comedy community, and there are a lot of troubled people there in the comedy community who feel insecure about everything that they do and who they are and things like that. So it was kind of like I was back in grade school, and there were a few people who were like, every chance that they got, they commented on my weight, and they tried to make me feel bad about my weight. And because I was trying to be a comedian, I didn't feel like I had the ability to comment and say, you know, don't speak to me like that, because I was supposed to be funny and jovial and things like that. And so it wasn't until like after university, I went to a year of university, and I came home and I was still like 230 pounds. And my parents were like, you're not moving back to Toronto. You're staying here until you get yourself sorted. And so that is when I finally realized that I have to take advantage of my support system. I have to realize that these are the people who love me and want the best for me. And that's really when I went back on the Atkins keto diet. And that's when I finally started to lose the weight again.
I see. And it wasn't only that you were passively doing that. You actually really started working on a blog.
I did. When I got home, I decided, you know what, why not document this process of going through it again? So yes, I started a blog.
That's right. And we actually worked on that blog together.
We did,
right?
yeah.
And did a lot of research in regards to what food consists of, what nutrition actually really is, right? In order to be able to gain some understanding as to the wide spectrum of eating disorders.
Yeah.
Yes, all the way from what it was that we were talking to Kate about on our last session, all the way to what it is that we're talking to you about on the other end of the spectrum. Similar kind of circumstances, right? Difficulty with peers, that's the relational component, right? And also too, a very significant difference where Kate was talking about how her mother was based in food constriction, right? That your experience was quite the opposite.
Yes, everything was about eating more.
Eating more.
Joy was like baking together and eating together. So, yeah.
Yes. And going to the cupboard and having whatever it is your heart desired because it was actually available at all times.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like it was almost even looked down upon if you didn't eat with the family. You know? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Something else that Kate touched upon, which I know that everyone is like, bleh, but she mentioned how she had problems with her period and things like that, her cycle. And I don't want to say it like jokingly, she was like, you know, good for her that she didn't get it, because I like she restricted her eating and therefore her period was nothing. I overate, like went gangbusters, and my period reflected that. There was a point in time where I had my period for 6 months straight.
Wow.
And it was like I could fill up a super tampon and a super pad at the same time.
Wow.
And it was not good. Like, I know at one point My face was pale. My gums were turning pale. I had to like keep going to the doctor. And the only thing that he could tell me was your hormones are out of whack because of how much you weigh. And there's nothing that we can do about it other than put you on birth control to stop the bleeding. But it's up to you to lose the weight.
Yeah, so very interesting, isn't it? Right? Yeah. Just that spectrum and how it is it actually really affects you. Mm-hmm. Not only with your complexion, but what's happening internally in regards to your reproductive system.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Yes. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, too, in regards to how thin people can get and how easy it is to cover that over with clothing,
right?
How difficult it is on the other end of the spectrum.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I didn't like... Going to the store was torture. Wasn't only torture for me, but like I tortured everyone around me with it because like normal teenagers can go to the store with their friends and be like, oh, I'm gonna get this cute skirt. Every time I went, it was like, oh, I don't like clothes because I was too embarrassed to be like, well, I have to go in the plus size section to get my stuff. And my mother would try so hard to help me, but it was just like nothing looks good on me because it's like just this body that doesn't have shape to it. Mm-hmm. But like you can't, there was no fashion. You know what I mean?
Oh no, I mean really it's about everything that it just hangs.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't hang, it doesn't look good.
No, because it's like if it's bodycon, it's just like you can see everything and everything's moving and it's like it's just like so much opportunity for people to take jabs at you as well because it's just like not socially acceptable.
Mm-hmm. Which of course affects self-esteem as well, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, like if you listen to my voice now, like I am obviously like I'm talking and I have the right to talk and I like to talk. When I was that overweight, I talk like this. I talk like this all the time. And I didn't feel like I deserved space. And I didn't feel like I had the right to be there because of my self-esteem was just so low. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now that transitioned for you at a certain point where it is that you actually really decided to become a comedian. Mm-hmm. So even though you did have low self-esteem during grade school, very difficult time, bullied, all that kind of thing, in high school, things actually really did transition for you and you were able to turn that around, right?
That's an interesting point because I was very involved in drama class and it was grade 9 and 10 that I was very overweight and it was the transition, the summer between grade 10 and grade 11 that I lost the 60 pounds. And at that point I was like, oh, I want to be an actor. And then I went on stage and that's a funny story in and of itself, but I performed a monologue. It was funny. Someone said that it was stand-up comedy. I looked into it and then I decided I'm going to be a stand-up comedian. And it was like a combination of I lost weight, so I felt really good about myself. And I discovered that I can speak and people will listen to me. And it doesn't actually matter how aesthetically pleasing I am. I'm a person. So that really helped me build my confidence in what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Wow, that's amazing. And really when you think about it, or at least when I think about it, when I think about female comedians, right, or comedy actresses, I think about overweight.
Yeah.
Right? Significant stature.
Yeah.
Right? So, and also too, when it is that we showed the image of you being a stand-up comedian, very John Candy-like.
Yeah. You actually messaged me when I posted that picture, and you said it very timidly. You were like, hey, I saw your picture. That's really great. In the most pandering way, you look like John Candy's daughter. It's like, I get it.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, based upon all of the research that you've done, all of the struggles that you've been through in regards to trying to regulate your weight, right? What are the things that you've really learned that are key?
I think the number one thing that I learned was to get out of denial. I think it's very similar to alcoholism almost. You have to acknowledge that there's a problem. I didn't recognize how big I was until grade 9 when we had to film something that we were doing for class, and everyone else looked normal and I was huge, and I actually couldn't believe how big I was. I was like, oh my God, I'm almost, like, it was that point that I was like, holy shoot, I'm almost 300 pounds.
Wow.
And no matter how many times I went on the scale and saw 270, I was like, oh, that's not bad, that's not bad. Like, it's 270, you know? How is that not bad?
Wow.
And it took until me actually seeing myself compared to other people that I was 270 pounds. Mm-hmm. So I think that getting yourself out of denial is step number 1. Yeah. And then actually taking responsibility for your actions. Mm-hmm. I think for a very long time, I blamed the world. It was everyone else's fault that I was shoveling candy into my mouth. Oh, wow. It's everyone else's fault that I was addicted to bread.
Wow.
You know what I mean? But after I finally decided, okay, I'm really big. I know what I need to do. The only person who could control what's going into my mouth is me. At that point, I was like, okay, I've got this. But that took years.
Yes. So what was it that actually really was the trigger point for you? The food made sense.
It was actually when I was writing the blog and we were looking into it, and It was all the science and all of the proof and all of the, actually looking into it and knowing, like, trying it out for myself. It's like, okay, so if I go a week eating a high protein, low carb diet, I feel amazing. But if I go a week with, like, eating carbs and sugar, then I break out and I have cramps and I don't feel well and I'm bloated.
Oh, okay. So it was actually really being able to see the connection, right, between whatever it is that you were doing and whatever the result was.
Yeah, and actually going through the trials of trying it.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And do you think that that's what it is that really spoke to you in the end, was you could see the difference in yourself?
Oh yeah, when I started looking like the person I always wanted to be, that's when my behaviors started to become the person I wanted to be too. Oh. Like, I started to say to myself, every time that there was an opportunity to pig out, I'd be like, okay, so old Emerald would love this opportunity and would hop on it, like all the time, just like a vacuum cleaner. But then I would stop myself and I would think, is that the person I am now? Is that the person I want to be? When I look in the mirror, I don't see old Emerald, so I'm not going to act like her anymore. I respect her and I do acknowledge her as another self. Like, I do, because when I look at myself, it's the younger self. And it's like somebody I want to take care of. Mm. I know,
that's
but
so sweet.
The older self that I look at and I want to be is the confident, strong, tough, stiff upper lip person that says to themselves in a almost very aggressive way, because I have dealt with other people who are like shoving craft dinner in my face, who, in my head, and I wouldn't do this in real life, but just kind of like takes the bowl of craft dinner and shoves it in their face. See how you like it. But I know. But that's not the person that I am. The behavior that I would like to be is very, classy and like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to do that. And be very self-assured in that. So that's how it really helped me with my diet, is just being like, you know what? This is who I want to be. And this diet is going to get me there. Yeah.
So self-compassionate now.
Yeah, very self-compassionate. Not so hard on myself. That's another big thing. Don't be so hard on yourself. You're a person, and the person that you were was also a person, and they deserve respect,
Very
and just
good.
Respect yourself and be kind to yourself.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
The one thing that I wanted to add was that you had actually made the dress that you're wearing.
I did.
Yes. And when you made it, unfortunately, you actually really couldn't fit in it. Was that right?
Yeah, I was probably a size 20 when I made it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this was a size 16. That's how large the pattern would go.
Right. And so you always wanted to be able to fit into the dress.
Yes.
You would try it on at certain times over the years.
Yes.
Right? Not able to fit in. It was like an 8-inch gap, and then a 6-inch gap, and then a 4-inch gap, and then finally tight, very, very tight.
Very tight.
And then now you're actually able to wear it.
I'm actually able to wear it comfortably. Isn't that wonderful?
That is.
It's such a satisfying feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you look at that, that's actually really, you set up a goal for yourself without even realizing that you were doing it.
Yeah.
And you kept that dress.
Yes.
Yes. Hanging in the closet, waiting for you.
Yeah.
And you knew, you were determined.
Yeah.
You were going to be getting in that sucker.
Yeah. I put a lot of work into this goal. And I'm making it into getting there.
Yeah. Well, congratulations and good for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's another point I want to touch on, though. If you think that if you can just buy up a bunch of clothes that don't fit you, and then that'll motivate you to get there. No. That's not... No, I didn't make it and say, this is the thing that's going to get me to stop eating. No, it was like a whole orchestra of values and goals that I had to change.
Yes. And one of the things that we did during the process and that experience was create a workbook in regards to not only the blog and your experience to do with research, but a workbook in regards to the art of food and nutrition.
Yeah, that's something that is really important, to be active in your goal, not only just like exercising a little and making plans to, eat better, but to also work on recognizing why you turn to food. Why you turn to food to not eat it, why you turn to food to overeat it. What got you there? And that's something that Kate touched on as well.
Yes, she did. Exactly. So that's really exciting, and it's exciting to have both you and Kate, opposite ends of the spectrum, really great experiences, really great learning, both as creating additional resources for our emotionally focused eating program, right, and as well our workbook and the art of food and nutrition.
Yes.
Yes. So hopefully in a few months we'll have that all put together, published, and ready for when it is that we move into our new institute in Port Stanley. Yes.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to actually be able to apply my life and help maybe somebody else, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Stand up for themselves.
Yeah. Right? Maybe teach a little stand-up workshop. I don't know.
Well, good for you, Emerald, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Yep. And if you have anything that you would like to discuss or have us discuss, please feel free to leave a comment, stay subscribed, and give us a like. It helps us out a lot.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And bye for now.
Bye for now.